My mind was still racing as I slept, thinking about the state of the road and what Benson had said earlier after we left the laboratory. One of my friends was a murderer. What? What?
I can't believe we're back on this. Literally every single piece of information we just went through for the past 5 scenes indicated that no, in fact, our friends were not the murderers.
Why is Dave back on the thought process from like 4 days ago? With all the new information contradicting that premise. We've established several new people that are murdery people, including like we have Jack in Memphis and maybe an evil sister that hides behind glass that isn't really glass. It's just signs floating to look like glass, and she plays the violin. I've been hurt before.
Yeah, this is a draft remnant. There's zero.
I'm baffled
chance
by this line. In particular,
there's zero chance this is meant to be here.
Yeah, because I have to assume this is genuinely a mistake, even from the writer's perspective. Because like, even for the entire last day, while all this new information was being processed, not once did Dave think this.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, the premise that one of our friends was the murderer has always been very faulty because of all of the reasons we have already established and talked about and yada yada. But this is especially absurd at this moment where finally the characters started to acknowledge that maybe there were outside parties here that murdered Oswin. And Dave is now just going like, yeah, after all that, I can't believe one of my friends is murdered. It's literally like he just left a conversation that was like, your friend is not the murderer.
Uh-huh. There was an explosion all the way down at presumably the cliff.
Yeah.
And all of his friends were there. Just to add to the 75 data points of this sentence being insane. Or at least that was the implication. It was someone Benson knew anyway, like all the characters we've established that he knows that aren't your friends. Like Memphis and girl sister name Floridia. Shit. She's like not a character yet, so I can't remember her name. Florencia. I had the right phonetics almost down. There's the right synapses firing. Part of me wondered that when I awoke, the person next to me was going to be gone. Having been found guilty in the trial of his peers overnight while you were sleeping. But on top of that, the road being gone made the road home. There's so many sentences that use the same word twice. The road being home made the road home impossible for the time being. That doesn't even make sense. That's not even a good...
The road being gone made the road home impossible. Yeah.
The road home impossible is just a nonsensical phrase, but it's also after the road is used twice. It hit me earlier when Benson was like, all things considered, I wouldn't even consider that. I'm like, oh my god, please stop using the same word in the same sentence over and over again. But here, like, the road home impossible is just a strange phrase. If leaving was even an option. It's not. That's the premise of the sentence you just said. But anything about who was being marked for death and why was somehow less important now that Osmond was dead. Okay. I'm gonna have to carefully reread every sentence we're reading right now. But anything about who was being marked for death and why was somehow less.
All right. It's a little rough.
But anything about who was being marked for death and why was somehow less important now that Osmond was dead. One, we've only emphasized the stakes that someone's marked for death for sure and reinforced it and repeated it over and over again yesterday, like 4 days after Oswin died. So saying it's not important anymore now that Oswin is dead is bizarre because he's been dead this whole time. But also that sentence is just like, whoa. That's like a sentence you say. This part reads like it was written by saying, Siri, write this down, and you just kind of like live just improvise the whole paragraph verbally and can't go back. Probably because with him gone, there wasn't anyone else to really ask questions about it. And all I had to go off of was his assurance that if we got to the end of the month, we'd be fine. Which is just noise. It's so nonsensical. Like, what does that mean? Then there was Jack, and what he was going to do next. Would he come to the house? I don't know, but if you've been worrying about Jack, you've been doing poorly, because it's been like 3 days now. I opened my eyes and saw it. It was sometime early in the morning. I wasn't tired anymore, though. Too distracted with my thoughts to rest. The Jack situation drives me crazy just because, like, being attacked by Jack feels very much like... Title card. Saturday. Here it goes. And then we just didn't go. We lost all momentum so hard that I'm losing my mind a little bit. I woke up right where I remembered falling asleep, cradled by Sal, although our position had changed slightly. There was no hiding the fact that his hand was squarely on my butt, firmly keeping me held against him. Nothing more than that, but it was an intimate way of being held that I just wasn't used to. Even with him asleep, it felt odd. A good kind of odd. Even with how Orlando and I cuddled up, it was just different. Dave cuddles with all of his friends like girls in high school.
Yes.
Beyond that, he was perfectly still, shy of the gentle rise and fall of his chest to indicate breathing. See, that's a weird sentence. It implies intentionality, like he's moving his chest on purpose to imply he's breathing, like, as opposed, like, I can't unpack the grammar forever, I'll lose my mind. It was innocent, and I wondered briefly if he even knew I was there. He's asleep. As I pulled myself away from him to sit up, he seemed to mumble something under his breath, but beyond that, remained oblivious. Getting up, I threw on some clothes and rubbed my face. My mind was still racing with everything going on, and I needed to clear my head. At least if I wanted any chance of getting some more rest later. Carefully, I wandered downstairs with my hands in my pockets. Quietly, in case someone was around. Or maybe it was because I was listening out for anything else that might be wrong. In the middle of the foyer, I looked around, and all I could hear was the faint white noise that came with absolute silence. Tinnitus. I checked the air next, breathing in deep through my nose. Nothing out of the ordinary. The lingering smell of food from the kitchen. Benson somewhere nearby, but that's about it. How good is his sense of smell? I think we've poked at it before, but it seems wild to be locating people. Sighing out. I wandered towards the back door and placed my hands carefully on it to look out the window. The world was still, and I could see Benson standing in the middle of the back deck, looking out at the woods. Easing open the door, I peeked around it, using it as a barrier while I tried to get Benson's attention.
You're doing a poor job of being subtle, Dave.
That's not what his goal was. Presumptive.
But no need to be afraid. There's nothing but us out here right now.
All right. I stayed by the door just in case, but was now solidly outside for the first time since being out in the woods. How did...
As expected, there hasn't been anything of note. Just a quiet night with my thoughts. THOTS, thoughts. I'm assuming your thoughts are what are keeping you up.
I've just been stacking
No,
them.
Sal's sleeping just fine.
Stacking my thoughts. No, I slept, but... Yeah, I guess with everything else going on, I just... Sighing out. I wandered a little closer, scratching my arm. This was meant to be a vacation. You know, something fun. So I brought all these people that hate each other, and then we didn't hang out. But now I'm just, well, I've broken down and cried, so that's okay. Maybe that was a good thing, but the road blowing up? This was quite the chain of thoughts.
Yes, that is something that troubles me as well. Imagine if he was like, no, that's absolutely no concern whatsoever. Not in our in that our escape method is cut off, but whoever blew it up in the first place as well.
Once again, the sentence starts with not, then ends with as well, which are contradictory things. So I don't... The point of the sentence is lost when you do that. Because the sentence starts off implying, oh, I don't care about the fact that our escape method's cut off, but who did it? But then he says as well, saying...
Well, what he's saying is, it's not that our escape method is cut off, but that whoever blew it up also cut off their escape method.
Is that what they mean?
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Oh, that doesn't parse that way for me at all.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to say. It's not in that our escape method is cut off, but for whoever blew it up in the first place as well. It is a very weird, I think that sounds kind of strange, but that is what it is saying. It's saying that the person, you're not, you know, we're stuck in there with them now.
Which reality do you think you're stuck in here with me?
Yes, exactly. I think that's what it's saying.
Also, those hedges are corn dogs.
Yummy. Yummy, yummy.
I'm hungry. Huh. There's no other way off the mountain?
Unless some new way has been invented, I see no means to land aircraft on the mountain either. Not enough level terrain or wide enough space. Well, shy of the area around the mill, but trusted Oswin and I would have noticed a helicopter.
Benson's gaze went dark, almost vacant, as he said Oswin's name, falling deathly silent. I didn't know how to respond, or what to do, so I just stood there quietly until he spoke again.
I suppose he wouldn't notice a helicopter holed up in his laboratory. Anyway, what do you, my boy?
What? Didn't you just say you would have noticed? But trust that Oswin and I would have noticed a helicopter. Would have. Yes. Affirmative. Wouldn't notice. Negative. Same topic. Back to back. What? Why? Which one was the intended meaning? Should we think a helicopter could be in play or not? I guess not, no. There's like a specific brand of like overthinking every single statement, which leads to too many logistics and too many like overly long sentences with too many qualifying statements and weakening statements. But it happens so much that every thought is almost immediately contradicted to the point where it's difficult to tell what anything means. He flashed me a quick smile before looking back out the woods with a sigh.
I hope seeing his body hasn't scarred you in any way.
No, I just spiraled for like 4 days, contemplated suicide like 3 times, and then had an emotional breakdown where I recognized the death of my father. No reaction.
He also almost got murdered.
Yeah. Completely unscarred. No. Interesting word choice, Dave. But something else has, though. Just... You know who killed him, right? Thanatos wasn't lying?
He was not. I know who killed Oswin, and I was fairly certain upon seeing how he was killed.
Yeah, it was Jack, the guy that stabs people with knives. Gonna be like, it was Sal, and here's how I know. 30-minute flashback about Sal's penchant for stabbing people with knives we're establishing now, after the accusation. And the murderer? You were about to say who it was back in the library, but...
I suppose I was, but it shouldn't matter. Not now, anyway.
What? They're here! There's a murderer here!
I would go so far as to say it matters, in fact, very much.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it matter?
Because the person who killed Oswin, or at least who I accused of the deed, is now no longer a problem.
You didn't kill them, did you?
What if his response was like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And if I did? Heavens, my boy. Thought I told you that avenging Oswin was my pound of flesh to retrieve.
I'm just trying to remember the premise of a pound of flesh because I don't know if it's being used right. I'm trying to remember
the
reference.
The term itself can simply just mean a burden to bear or the cost that you have to pay for something. So
yeah,
he isn't necessarily
but
using
he keeps
it wrong.
phrasing it like it's a story about vengeance.
Sure.
But killing is... I trailed off when Benson gave me a look. The irony hit me like a truck, given that what had happened to Oswin, and I clammed up, looking away.
Killing is bad. People die when they're killed.
What? Why didn't anyone tell me?
Oh my god. For future references, I would rather the term neutralized. Trust that no other deaths by their hand shall come to pass.
But who was
I would
it?
really like it if you didn't consider the person I murdered to be a person. I would prefer if you just called them a monster who deserved to die. Thank you.
A mark. A notch. But who was it? How can you be so sure?
Do you remember how I said the most important thing to Oswin was family? Well, are you familiar with the relationship he and Florencia held?
No. Once again, 18-year-old, knows nothing. She's kind of got kidnapped into this trip, essentially. Benson shook his head with a sigh, rubbing his eyes.
In any case, it doesn't matter much anymore, but what I can assure you is that Oswin's assailant has been neutralized.
You mean dead?
No, I mean neutralized. Oswin's murderer are still among the living, but they will not be committing any more murders. I've ensured that personally. I asked them very nicely.
Okay, well then why didn't you just tell the truth, you weirdo? I prefer the term neutralized. By prefer, I mean dead is literally not correct, and neutralized is more correct because it motherfucker. That's not what people mean when they say that. I gave him a funny look and backed up to the door inside again. Maybe it was just lack of sleep, but I wasn't liking the idea of that the murder was still potentially around. Even though killing is bad.
You're not pleased with that explanation, I know.
Honestly, Oswin, Benson, call Dave out on his hypocrisy here. Like, the killing is bad, but the news that the guy's not dead is freaking him out now.
You're not pleased with that explanation, I know, but what good am I without my word? Okay.
What's your word worth? You don't tell us anything.
Fuck all nothing is what it's worth.
You're even being oddly cagey about whether or not it was Florencia or not. Like, in a strange way of leaving it implied, you're kind of leaving the door open to the idea that you actually mean someone else still. Then, one last thing, before I attempt to sleep again. You're gonna go back to sleep? You've had one conversation today, Dave.
Go on.
Was Oswald's murderer one of my friends? What? Why do you think that?
You're playing with fire, Dave. If I were to answer in the affirmative, what would you do? Crusade against your group in hopes of outing an assailant? I swear to God, what's going to happen is he's going to ask all these questions and go, oh, what would you do? Would you murder them? What would your psychology be? And then at the end, he's just going to be like, it wasn't one of your friends, Dave. I was just fucking with you. Like, that's the question here is whenever Benson keeps posing these like philosophical, like,
Yeah,
I prefer the term neutralized. This is how you should frame this. Anyway, no big deal.
What does he even
like,
mean?
What the fuck?
What does he even mean by this? Like, first of all, the implication that Dave had, like, the obvious implication of Dave's question is that Benson would tell him who it was, not just say yes. Like, what the fuck? Why does he think why does Benson think he's expecting a yes or no answer to this question, and then that's the end of the conversation? So he's then gonna have to, like, be paranoid and wonder who it could be. Like, why would Benson do that to him if he was answering the question in the affirmative? Why would he not be like, oh, it was Haas? Like, why would you not? But also, given everything that Benson has said, like, Benson went on a weird thing about Florencia and family relations, and then said that the person was neutralized. So why would he think it's one of his friends? Like, I'm getting suspicious now that it is one of his friends, because it's like the author is just forcing that into the narrative because that's the answer or something. But the entire lead up until this, every data point contradicts that, and nothing reinforces the idea. There is no new data pointing at it being his friends, and there never really was to begin with. And everything we learn only contradicts that and muddies the waters more. And, like, that's not what red herrings are. That's just a lack of data if it's one of his friends. But just in the basic flow of the conversation, his response just doesn't make sense, because he was just like, ah, yes, do you know about his relationship with Florencia? Ah, yes, I have neutralized the target. Was it one of my friends? What would prompt that question? There's no logical flow to that. It's insane. But if they did, they must have had a reason. But as far as I can tell, everyone's been normal, but there's no one else here. So there's multiple other people here, Dave. We've established there are multiple other people. Why wouldn't you suspect Benson first? If you're gonna suspect someone that's in the house. You know, the assassin. I grumbled, running my hands hastily through my fur. What if I just shared a bed with a murderer?
Would you love them any less? Yes.
Yes.
I think Dave would. I think
But
Dave
also,
would
Sal's
love the
not a
murderer less.
Sal likes to watch. Huh?
Say you shared a bed with Oswald's murderer. What then? What would you do? See, this is what I mean, though. This is more of this, like, psychological prodding. And even if this is just a figment of fucking Dave's imagination in his head, it's still just like, what does the player get out of this other than Dave being like, wow, that was such a deep conversation to have with myself.
I am kind of hoping this is a dream, yeah.
It is, I think. I think it's a dream.
Because Benson's insane. And yeah, that bizarre change of conversation does make this be more like that conversation with Sal, Dream Sal, that's like, you're in love with me, aren't you? And I'm like, yes. Okay, this is the character, or and the multiple ones with Dad, where he's clearly not himself, but Avatar talking to him. Yeah, this is strange. I don't know. If I knew, then I guess I'd ask them why they did it.
What answer would put you at ease? That they did it for a noble reason and then they fought the good fight?
Sure.
Yeah.
He killed dozens of children. I feel like this is going under the radar most of the time, but it's kind of a big deal, honestly. Maybe? It's just so... I don't know. How did you kill people for a living? How does that not bother you?
I never said that it doesn't haunt me daily. Indeed, I've lost a lot of sleep over the sins I've committed. But rather than regale you with tales of my past, I'll put it simply. one that killed Oswin would be no friend of yours, Dave. See, I fucking knew it. I knew it was going to be them interrogating Dave until the very end when he's like, just kidding, it doesn't matter. The answer's irrelevant. I was just pestering you for no particular reason.
They're just introducing false tension, but it's tension that makes no sense, so it's just a waste of time. Like, it's just...
Here's the thing.
Like, if anybody's playing this game and hitting that point of the conversation and thinking like, oh my god, is it one of Dave's friends? You are literally just passively... like accepting whatever stakes are thrown at you at the moment without processing what they actually are saying or the context of the story.
Yeah, it's not actually a meaningful like storytelling thing. Especially right here though. See, this is another thing that doesn't make sense. The one that killed Osman would be no friend of yours, Dave. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. Okay.
Oh,
except that you literally just ratcheted up the tension by making us believe maybe it could have been our friend, and then pestered us with philosophical questions about it until you revealed that no, it wasn't our friends, which is relieving. So no, Benson, ignorance is not bliss in this case. You relieved the tension by telling us it was not one of our friends, which is more information.
I'm worried that they're speaking in riddles still and implying that, like, if one of your friends did kill Oswin, then they actually aren't one of your friends, is what I mean by this, haha. Because they say would be no friend of yours, but like,
it's gonna be Dave. That's the only other logic that I have.
That baby. We're gonna go full fucking 13 Reasons Why season 4. Let's go. Ignorance is bliss is just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't fit. There's too many there's a lot of statements that kind of end in like thought-terminating cliches, and they often don't match the thought before them. It just, But I want to know, Benson. Who did it? Or why? From his vest, he pulled out a neatly folded piece of paper, carefully handing it over to me.
There was something left for me in the event he died. Not necessarily a will, but an explanation of sorts.
I scanned it once before reading it properly the second time. A lot of it was a long-winded apology, mostly about his shortcomings in life and that he knew Benson expected better. But the most interesting part was the part where he reassured Benson about what was going to happen, that it was his choice. But the page ended before it seemed Osmond was done, as if there was a page missing. When did you get this?
Shortly after we parted ways last night, I decided to prepare myself before going on watch. I stumbled across it, shall we say.
Why'd you say that? Why'd you say, shall we say? It implies you're speaking euphemistically or hiding a secret.
Yeah.
Which, why would you say that if you are? Why would you imply that you're lying? Just this page? It seems like there should be more. I handed the letter back to Benson and he tucked it away again, neatly folding it without giving another look.
There was an additional page, but I have since disposed of it as per the instructions written on the page in question. Just a more personal note Oswin left for me.
How personal are we talking?
As personal as murder, Dave. Mostly affairs he wished for me to take up in his stead, namely keeping you all alive as best I can, and also to remind you all that the scavenger hunt is still very much ongoing. Are you...
What? Didn't he not want us to do the scavenger hunt because we shouldn't open the vault, which is the prize for the scavenger hunt? Why is
it's just very hard to tell why we would want to care about this at this point. Like, if this was a thing that was important, we should have cared about it prior to this. Because literally from moment one, the scavenger hunt was just a stupid thing that we didn't care about.
It's introduced like a thing that just Roswell wanted to do, and it was his idea. And then he like hooked it with Benson to do it essentially.
It was promptly dropped too.
Yeah, it never came up again. No one cares about it. No one reinforced the idea that it was important. And the one piece of data we have about it was Oswin saying, "Don't open the vault," which is the prize for the scavenger hunt. So then, don't do the scavenger hunt, right? Why would we do the scavenger hunt? Why would we do the scavenger hunt? What the fuck?
Yeah.
But also, I just want to go back to this. An explanation of sorts. It didn't explain anything.
Yes.
It didn't explain anything.
Well,
Again, we keep getting told that things are
well, we
explanations.
didn't read the first page of the note. I agree that this is not giving us an explanation, but the irritating thing here is that Dave goes, "This was something left for me in the event he died, not necessarily a will, but an explanation of sorts." The next line is like, "He also left me another page, which I threw away." And then Dave goes, instead of asking what the explanation is, goes, "Hey, what about that page you threw away?" Which is stupid. Just talk. Just tell the explanation.
Just baffling. Like even Benson handed this to us with the implication being that it explains something, and then it didn't explain anything.
Yes.
It's just what we already knew, which is that he supposedly knew he was going to die, and he's just apologizing and stuff, and nothing is explained. Why do people keep saying we're getting explanations, and then nothing is ever explained in the moment where the explanation is supposed to happen? And it feels like the scenes are written where they genuinely forget what the scene was supposed to be a minute later, and then they just keep going linearly. It's so strange. He cared about that? Of all things, that was what he was worried about?
Indeed. Oswin did not know the code to open the door, so perhaps continuing this little game will ensure that he lives to see it open in some other iteration of his life.
Well, you believe his interpretation of the timeline thing? Like, really?
Believe that Oswin believed. Maybe in the wake of his brother and sister's influence, or after watching you, it's hard to say. But I'm not one to question the beliefs of the dead.
But what's behind the door? You know, right? Or is it still meant to be a secret, even with Oswin's dead? Benson studied me carefully, almost as if he was yawning without opening his mouth. The tiredness in his face was apparent, but he nodded slowly.
I'll answer this before I must usher you back to bed. The tiredness is starting to catch up on me.
The tiredness, it starting to catch up on me.
Whoops. But why would we go back to bed? It's the morning. We slept through the night. It's the morning now. Why am I being ushered back to bed? I slept the normal time, and it's now the normal time to wake up. Sorry, but if this is all for something, then I gotta know.
Behind the door is Oswin's greatest achievement and his greatest failure. A second chance.
Can you give me like a noun? I'm begging you. I don't get it. A second chance at what?
One could say life and be somewhat correct, although that's not entirely true.
Just fucking say it.
Despite his one, if monumental failure, Oswin did succeed in creating something brilliant, but understood that such things should not be shared with the world.
Then why would we open it?
What I mean to say is that what Oswin hid from the world and locked behind multiple levels of security is something he dubbed the water of life.
Is that really what you meant to say, or were you just talking around it?
Yeah. Like, something to bring back the dead? Why would somebody be interested in bringing back the dead who has a pet rat named Thanatos that's cut open or killed dozens of children?
Aquavitae or whatever, is that isn't that like an
Aquavitae. alchemy
thing? Isn't that like an alchemy thing? I can't remember there's a specific word for the water of life that is an alchemical philosopher's stone kind of style. The MacGuffin. I just don't remember what it's called. Anyway,
To be honest, I don't rightly know, but he was scared of it and what it'd mean if it got out.
Then why are we opening it? But if you could bring someone back, then why can't we just revive Oswin?
yes, aquavitae or vitae is a special thingy, a special alchemical thingy.
Dave, do not joke lightly about the deceased. There is no telling if what he made could indeed do that.
Joke lightly. It was just the logical conclusion of the data of what you're presenting. Maybe you should be better at explaining things. I'm not joking. We could bring him back. Then you don't have to be sad, and... Benson's stare terrified me. A cold, almost murderous look that made me back down.
The dead cannot be brought back, my boy. No matter how hard you may wish it, nothing can undo death.
Then what is Aqua Vitae? Explain good. Do it.
Now please return to bed. Enjoy what rest you can for the next few hours before no doubt we'll all need to discuss what our next move shall be.
You didn't tell me anything. Just, water of life, but what does it mean?
It's
Cool.
a big spooky thing. You know that big spooky thing in the vault we're all scared of? Anyway, it's a big spooky thing in the vault that we're all scared of.
We need to complete Oswin's legacy, but in a different timeline by opening the vault that we're not supposed to open, and here's why you shouldn't open it. He was terrified of opening it. Don't open it, actually, but do open it?
Don't forget to do the scavenger hunt, because it's very important.
Are you sure you're not a cat?
He's a... yeah. This is frustrating.
I'm losing my mind. I just communicate clearly. I don't even know what to take away from these conversations half the time because they don't even clearly just make a statement and then commit to it. I shrunk back against the door, opening it and slipping inside. Making my way upstairs, I wandered to the bed I spent the night in, almost as if I had never left. I slipped into the covers and lay there on my back with my thoughts. Part of knowing what was behind the vault door had taken some of the mystery away. But we don't know what it is! We don't know what it is. What do you mean took the mystery away? We don't know what it is. We just have a name that we don't have an answer for because you correctly extrapolated what he seemed to be implying it did, and then he said, no, not that. And then the conversation ended. So we don't know what it is. We have exclusively negative data about what it is.
I would kill Dave, and no one would put me in jail for it. I would get away with it. And people would call me a hero.
Why are you booing? I'm right.
You can thank me in the comments, everyone. When this episode goes live, I better see 50 comments and I'll say thank you, Toaster.
He did it.
Thank you, Toaster, for your blood hunt against
killed
Dave.
his son.
I brought this evil into the world. I'll take it out.
For context, there, we made the original joke that the Dave looks bizarrely like a fusion of Marrow and Toaster in certain ways, but there now is fan art of him being our child.
I'm grounding him for 100 years. I'm so mad at him right now. I'm so mad at him right now.
Seal him in the vault. At the same time, he raised a bunch of questions that now no longer could be answered. What?
What?
Sure. What questions?
And why can't they be answered?
Yeah. I feel like you're trying to imply more than you said. I don't know about that one. What was so bad about what he'd made? Did it not work? Or was the problem that it did? Why are we opening it if we don't know?
And presumably if it didn't work, then he wouldn't be afraid of its effects on the world.
Yeah, so it must work. Or it does something horrible, but it must do something. But should we know what it does before we open it? Do we not? Does even Benson not know? Why is it our goal? But our goal is to not open it. I'm losing my mind.